welcome to Feed the Hike series. Today we're going to talk about dinner and dinner on the trail. For a long distance hiker, dinner is the long awaited meal. You're so hungry, especially when you've been on the trail for weeks on end. And in some cases, some people have been on the trail for months, and you can't wait for dinner. Why is dinner so important? To have a really good dinner, it is very important when you're out on the trail. You have to remember that you've been physically working all day walking, all day exerting yourself physically as well as mentally, and mentally can be very tiring. So you have to look after that body when you get to camp and fuel yourself up. Food is fuel. Fuel like you put in your car. If you don't put fuel in your car, the car won't run. If it's not good fuel, the car won't run sufficiently or effectively. So think about that when you're planning your journey on the trail for a long period of time. Think about what fuel are you putting in your vehicle, which is your body, and how are you going to make that body work sufficiently and effectively on the trail. And nighttime is important because that's the time that your body is coming from here down to here, and it's resting. And while it's resting, it is repairing. And while it's repairing, it's getting itself ready for the next day so that you're moving back up here and working really, really well. So think about that at nighttime for your meal. I do notice that a lot of the time people can be so exhausted at the end of the day that they physically find it hard to eat. I've seen a lot of people who just say, oh, I'm not going to bother with dinner. They'll have a drink, have a coffee or whatever, and then just pass out in their tent. Now that's not good, because you're not giving your body the fuel, you're not giving it the means to repair itself during the night, so that you're physically able to get up and go the next day. When you're physical at home and you're going to the gym or you're walking every day, or whatever physical activity that you do on a regular basis, you tend to find that you recover well, because when you're at home, you have the chance to sit on the lounge. You lie back, you're relaxed on a comfortable lounge, you eat a decent meal, you can have a shower, you can hop into bed and sleep in a bed for a decent length of time, and that gives your body recovery time. Now when you're out on the trail, you don't have a lounge, you don't get to have a shower, and you definitely don't have the comfy bed to sleep in for your body to relax. So when you're out there, you have to make sure that you do the best that you can to get your body prepared and repaired, ready for the next day. So think about the food that you eat and make sure you do eat your food, and don't just pass out in the tent and think, you know, I'm not hungry. Your body is hungry, your mind is physically exhausted, your body is physically exhausted, but it needs to do a lot of work during the night to help repair itself ready for the next day. And I guarantee if you force yourself to have a little bit of food before you go to sleep, you're gonna feel so much better. You really will. And this is coming from a mum, so I'm telling you guys, I'm a mama, and I'm telling you guys, this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna behave yourself and go eat your food, decent food, not 2-minute noodles, decent food, and get a good rest and let your body heal. Another thing to think about too is at night, things like taking a bit of magnesium, or making sure that you've got magnesium enriched foods. They really help. If you're someone who suffers from cramps at night, you might need that little bit extra salt and magnesium. I have people ask me all the time, you know, what do you do? Because, you know, they're lying in bed and they start cramping up and it's uncomfortable. I take powdered magnesium on the trail with me. I sprinkle it on my food, or sometimes I just have it in a glass of water. And I find that that really helps a lot. I'm going to be putting up a video shortly on tips and tricks from other hikers. So there will be a group of us just sitting around, and we're going to share our little tips and tricks with you on what it is that we do to help our bodies move along in a more comfortable way, and what our little secrets are. So stay tuned for that video. I also have another video coming up shortly with a special guest, and this special guest is actually my daughter. she is very keen to share with you some of her recipe ideas for her vegetarian and vegan meals. So that's going to be very interesting, as I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan of any sort, and I know there's a lot of you out there that are, and you'd like to know some of these meal ideas. So my daughter said, well, I'll come on and I'm going to share some with you, and I think that's really lovely. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully it won't be too far off for that one. So in this episode on dinners for hiking, I'm going to give you a couple of recipes. So hang around, because there's a few recipes coming up further on in the video. If you're enjoying my series so far, that's fantastic. If you're new to the series, I'd like to say hi, and I know there's been a lot of new ones coming on board lately, so hi. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, and also please press that subscribe button, and let me know that you are keen on this series. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't already, grab yourself a copy of my book, Feed the Hike. It's a good book. It's all on sustaining your hike with your mind, body and diet. There's a lot of stuff in here from other hikers, guest hikers who are very well traveled, and they have some really good tips and tricks for you. Also, you'll find in chapter 3 is a section from my physiotherapist that I've been seeing for many, many years, and he's helped me a lot along the way with keeping my body where it needs to be and helping me when I do get an injury, and teaches me on how I can manage that, especially when I'm out on the trail, because you know what, sometimes you're in the middle of nowhere and you will come across an injury where your body is just does something that it shouldn't do, and you need to know what to do to help yourself. So for this recipe, I actually don't have a name for it. It's just one we had last night with our dinner. We had it with peri-peri chicken, which I'll do a recipe on a different program for peri-peri chicken. But we had it as the side dish of our peri-peri chicken, but there's no reason why you couldn't have it as your whole dish, or add the peri-peri chicken to it at camp. It was just absolutely delicious, and what made it for me was one particular ingredient that I put in at the end. If you have a look, that ingredient was actually some lime zest, and a good amount of it too. It just added that zing at the end, and it was really, really delicious. Half a cup of dehydrated basmati rice is what I use. It was, before it was cooked, it was around 200 grams. It is now dehydrated down to around 67, 68 grams, which is quite good. Again, if it's not enough for a meal for you, please add more. There's no harm in adding or taking from it. Here I have a quarter cup of porcini mushroom. Some of you may have cottoned onto the fact that I am a porcini mushroom fan, so a lot of my recipes actually have that in. And here are just the normal mushrooms that I've dehydrated, and that's a quarter cup of those as well. Feel free and don't be afraid to add as many different types of mushrooms that you want, and add more or less. It depends on what you want and what your preference is, because remember, at the end of the day, you're the one eating it, not me. So if you want more mushrooms, add more. If you want a different flavor of mushroom, add those. You don't have to stick to what I've done. It's not that important. Here I have some capsicum. This is just a tablespoon of capsicum. Add more or less again. Pinch of salt, pinch of pepper. Here I've got a good amount of garlic, a teaspoon of garlic, because I'm a garlic freak, and garlic is so good for you out on the trail. It really is. It helps in so many ways, so don't be afraid of the garlic. You're gonna stink anyway, so don't worry about it. Paprika, which is another one of my favorite spices that I use a lot. There's a good teaspoon of paprika there. And like I said, the lime rind. Now this takes literally half an hour or so to dehydrate lime rind. And this one I had grated quite fine, as you can see. The smell is intense. I do it with lemon as well, but I also do it a lot. Ooh. Yeah, pressure works on these. Here I've grated it in a bigger grate, but in this recipe I'm actually going to use the finer one. Again, it's up to you. You can do either or both. It's not really a bother. But the lime, I think, just does the magic. That's the key ingredient, I think, for this one. So add as much lime as you choose. That is just a really good pinch size. So basically all you're going to do with this is throw it into your zippy bag. Now I've already labelled this one mush rice. It's a good name, eh? If you can come up with a name for this recipe, yay, give it to me. That'll be great. Let's name it. I don't have a name for it. It's just something, like I said, I threw together last night and had it for dinner, and I had to share it because it was just amazing. And just chuck the whole lot in there. Don't be afraid. And a really good whack of salt. Don't be afraid of the salt either. Now in total, I'd already weighed this, but let's see if I got it right. I weighed it at 90 grams. Let's have a look. So it's on par with what I normally would carry. Oops. 92 grams, I suppose that counts the bag. I weighed it before the bag. So there you go. Let's take this one out and give it a go. I think you'll all enjoy this, and like I said, if you want to have some meat with it, I would have a chicken peri-peri with it. That would be amazing. I mean, that's what we had last night and it was outstanding. If you don't want to have meat with it, it doesn't really matter. It's got so much goodness in it anyway, and it's quite a filling dish. Also, don't be afraid to change the rice up. I've used basmati, but if you really want to change this recipe up a little bit more, why not go for more of a risotto rice, more of a risotto style rice, and add in maybe some veggie stock with it, or even chicken stock, preference to what you prefer, and make it more of a risotto. That would lend itself to be an amazing risotto. So there you go. It could just have it like that, or you can have it as a risotto. There's so many ways, so don't be afraid to give it a go, experiment. And if you have experimented with it and tried it and changed it up a little, let me know. I'd be really keen to hear what you've done and how it came out. So this is going to be the pulled pork Mexican style. In my book Feed the Hike, I actually have a pulled pork and porcini mushroom pasta recipe that you can do to take out on the trail. But today I thought I'd show you the Mexican style that I often do at home for our dinner, and if there's some left over, I put it in my dehydrator ready to take out on the trail. So tomorrow night we're having this for dinner, but I need to prepare it the day before just to get the flavors right in there. So let's start. We've put some foil down. This is just so that I can protect the food while it's in the fridge. or you can do it in a glass dish or whatever you choose. I always just like to wrap it up in the foil. So in here I have a combination of half a teaspoon of paprika. Sweet paprika works fine, smoky paprika, whatever paprika your preference is, it doesn't really matter. We also have a teaspoon of ground coriander, quarter of a teaspoon of ground ginger, 1 teaspoon of cumin, quarter of a teaspoon of chili flakes, 1 teaspoon of veggie stock. So we're going to just sprinkle that over. We will now add just a good amount of salt. Don't be shy. Here I have 2 cloves of chopped up garlic and 1 tablespoon of chopped jalapenos. Now, the reason I've chopped this up is because whatever's left over from our dinner, I am putting in the dehydrator. So I want this to dehydrate really well and then rehydrate in turn really, really well on the trail. So do keep it small if you intend to dehydrate this. And just sprinkle that on top. A bit of some pepper, black pepper. Now, don't be shy to adjust the recipe to your liking. If you don't like it very, very hot, then don't add the jalapenos or cut back on the chili flakes. That's entirely up to you. So don't be afraid to play with any recipe that you do. Let's just massage that in to the meat. Now ideally you're going to want to put this in the fridge overnight so that all these flavors have really gotten into the meat. If you don't have time or you just simply forget to do it the night before, don't worry about it, you know, just cook it straight up. It doesn't really matter. It's just I find the flavors are far more intense if you let them sit overnight. There you go. So wrap that up. And pop that in the fridge, and then we'll come back later and I'll show you how to cook it. We've had this resting in the fridge overnight and now we're going to cook it. So you get your slow cooker. You can do this in a pot on the stove if you want to, or maybe in the oven if you choose to. I love doing it in the slow cooker because it just comes up a treat, and it will take anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. So pop that in there. With that, you want to put half a cup of onion. I use red. Use the onion that you choose, that you like. And a tin of crushed tomatoes. Just 410 grams. Just mix that around. Now we're going to cook this on low heat for anywhere from 4 to 6 hours. It depends on the size of your meat. You'll know when it's ready when you get 2 forks and you can just pull it apart nicely. Let's get cooking. Been cooking now for 6 hours, so we're just going to see if it is. Oh, look at that, it's just falling apart. So you just want to spread all this out and give it a really good mix. So break it all up so it's literally shredded pork, and make sure you mix it around really good. So here we have a serving size. Now this is a serving size that I would typically have on the trail, and that's about 150 grams like that. tip it out onto your solid tray. You're going to want to make sure it's really spread. Now if you have bits like this that are very, very long, you're going to want to cut them, break them up just a little bit shorter. Because remember, the bigger the pieces, the longer it takes to dehydrate. So spread it right out completely. Now you're going to put this in the dehydrator at the highest possible temperature of 70 degrees Celsius. And typically it would go for around 12 hours long. Now we've finished dehydrating our pulled pork Mexican style. I have to admit, we had this last night for dinner and it was amazing. This took about 10 hours to dehydrate, and as you can hear, there is no water left in that. I'd package this up now, ready to take out onto the trail. I'm just breaking it up just a little bit, so there's not too big a pieces. I'm going to put it in a zip bag. Now, I would have with this rice, pasta, or sometimes I take corn chips out on the trail, or wraps and pop it in a wrap, tortilla. Any way that you want. You can add other stuff with it as well. Now, when you go to rehydrate this, it's up to you how much water you want to put in and how much sauce that you will get from it. If you don't want it too saucy, then don't put too much water in it. And it would probably take about 5 to 10 minutes max to rehydrate sitting in hot water. So the finished weight of that, so this is 38 grams. So if I was to add some rice or pasta or something with that, it would still be around the 50 gram mark for a proper dinner.